Welcome to Yard Work. And last week we talked about the acquisitions on the offensive end and how it was going to change some of the things that we're going to do on offense. This week we're going to talk about the defense a little bit. They made a few acquisitions, namely on the defensive line. Adam Butler, Jaelen Phillips, first round pick, number 18 overall. And I'm going to explain to you what Jaelen Phillips is probably going to be asked to do this year. It's not going to be as simple as just replacing Shaq Lawson, but it can be as simple as just replacing Shaq Lawson, although he will be asked to do a few things more. And here we have the Dolphins in what is a base 4-3. The Jaguars are in 12 personnel, it's 2 tight ends. See them? And the Dolphins are playing here what looks like a 4-3 medium cover 2. And medium just says that the outside backers, which in this case are Jerome Baker, Cal Van Noy, would drop into the short zones, and they were going to try to squeeze these pockets in between the corner. Remember, he's off the screen right here. The linebacker and the safety. They're going to squeeze that triangle for tight ends and wide receivers. Now, namely, how do you line up in what is essentially 4-3 medium when it's an over front? You usually have a 3-tech on the opposite side of wherever the running back is lined up when it is a shotgun and the running back is offset of the quarterback. You usually have a 3-tech, you have a 1-tech, and then you have somebody wide and somebody head up on a tackle, right? That's on an over front. But since this is, it's basically simple 4-3 base, since it's straight up, you want to have your ends shading the tackles in what is essentially 5 technique. Okay? And they have to watch for a couple of things. First of all, they can't get too wide, they can't get too far up the field. And usually the way you're going to line up is that you will have the 1-tech on the side of wherever the running back is lined up. And in this case, I believe this is Godshaw. He's in 1-tech. And Wilkins is head up on the guard, although sometimes they can call a shift and then move what would be the 1-tech onto the guard and then bring what was supposed to be the 3-tech onto the 1-tech. So that's the shift. But on the ends, they would always stay the same in 4-3 base medium. They would always stay shading the outside shoulder of the tackle, and their responsibility is very simple. Tackle, if the tackle steps out to try to get some movement this way, he has to hold his ground. He has to hold what is essentially a box. Okay? He has to play inside of what is a 5-yard box, but either way. So 2.5 yards this way, 2.5 yards this way, 2.5 yards this way, 2.5 yards this way. He can't be moved. Okay? And he has to hold the integrity of what is this, which is the tackle box. That is called setting the edge. When he pass rushes, if it is a pass, he's going to have to get hands on right away and read the play. Once the running back is gone or out into the pattern, he could get into his rush. And it must be wide. In this type of defense, it must be wide. It cannot be inside. Always wide. Let's watch this play and see what happened here. I'm going to get it slow. And here's the snap. And in this case, it's Zach Sealer that's playing the role of Jaelen Phillips. Zach Sealer just didn't get anywhere. Good pass right there. Saw the triangle. Saw they tried to squeeze it. That could have been the case of, in that side, it was Jerome Baker. Jerome Baker didn't get a deep enough drop. And that allowed for the completion. But it's pretty simple work that a defensive end has to do in this system, especially in 4-3 base. All right, this is the Los Angeles Rams, and they're in 11 personnel, which is usually what they do, but they give you that 12 look because they bring in Cooper Kupp in tight to the formation, and the Dolphins are in nickel. Okay? And this is interesting because, like, let's say, it's first down, so let's say you're going to run the ball, right? Like, if you're looking at this formation, like, well, what do you see, right? You see, well, the Rams should just run outside zone this way, and they should have the Dolphins outflanked, right? Because you have 3 blockers for 1, 2 defenders, right? So outside zone should be simple, right? But it doesn't work that way because this is something the Dolphins do. They induce some runs by mere alignment. If it's a pass play, the Dolphins have essentially already created one-on-one matchups. Unless they keep Cooper Kupp in to block, more likely than not, they're going to release him. But if they keep him in to block, hypothetically, you're allowing a free rusher in Nick Needham, right? But Cooper Kupp most likely will release. If he releases, you've essentially, by mere alignment, since you have the zero tech right here in Raekwon Davis, he's going to control the center, and he's going to control these gaps. You've essentially created one-on-one matchups here on the outside with your two ends. This is Emmanuel Ogbah. This is Shaq Lawson. In this case, hypothetically, you could have Jaelen Phillips in this spot, right? So it makes a lot of sense if you're going to rush the passer here. If this is a pass play, by mere alignment, you should be able to get a good pass rush from the blind side, right? But the Rams read it differently, and the way the Rams are going to read it is that they're going to run outside zone because they believe they have it flanked. Now, what are the responsibilities? Well, it's very simple. Since you have a zero, like I said, he has to control this box. He has to control these gaps. He cannot be moved. He cannot be caved because you cannot create a cutback lane, especially right over the center. That is just too many holes to cover on the defensive end, especially against 11 personnel and a team running outside zone. So what's key here is that Zach Sealer just going to has to occupy these two rushers. These two blockers. And the way he has to do this is he has to shoot this gap on the 3 tech. And these guys just have to read. They can't get walled off. And they have to move down the line. And Jerome Baker has to stay absolutely clean. And then he has to move and then read off of Zach Sealer either outside or inside. While this backer, which is Kyle Van Noy, which in our case this year will likely be Van Ginkel or maybe even McKinney, possibly. He's going to have to set the edge. And he can't get too far up. He can't get too far inside because he can't allow the play to bounce completely to the outside, an outside zone, because in that case, then all you have is, and let me clear this up, all you would have is pursuit. And by mere pursuit to the sideline, especially since you go into the far hash, you're allowing, before he gets touched, 5 yards. That's unsuccessful defense. So the play here is pretty simple. It falls on the 0 to control the center, and this 3 tech has to occupy these 2 guys. And if he occupies these 2 guys, he allows the 2 linebackers on this side, which is Jerome Baker, Kyle Van Noy, in this case it'll be McKinney and Baker, to read these gaps, the A and the B. But just by reading those 2 gaps, but those 2 linebackers with 1 blocker, they should be able to get to the running back. Because these guys are going to occupy these offensive linemen. Since it is outside zone, it's a slow developing play. You can't allow free rushers from the backside because they will chase it down right in the backfield. So these offensive linemen just have to make contact. Now, if it's a counter, that could be a good idea for the Rams' sake if they ran counter. Because if they run counter and then they somehow down block, and they do get these blocks, they could just have an avalanche coming right at Calvinoy, and in this case, it'll be McKinney this year. But they don't do that. They just see the alignment. They think they can take care of it. They can take advantage of it, and they decide we're just running outside zone. What did the Dolphins do? We're running it slow so you can see it. And this is really, really smart. As you can see, Raekwon Davis kind of sees what's coming up. And the Dolphins are anticipating that it is outside zone. And let's watch it. And let's watch it. And let's watch it. And stop. All according to plan, right? As you can see, the two ends on this side, in this case it would be Jaelen Phillips, they're mirroring the play. They're shading down the line. And Zach Sealer has taken on both blockers. This play is for Jerome Baker to make. But of course, Zach Sealer has other plans. As he absolutely blows up the guard and throws him back into Henderson. As Calvinoy, in this case it'll be McKinney, who's actually a great shed and stack linebacker, defeats Higbee on that side, makes the tackle after Zach Sealer makes a great play. So, in this case, what we're learning is the Dolphins will have the personnel to run all these tricky fronts and induce runs in all kinds of ways. And if you went back to the beginning of the play, and you can almost see it here. Let's look at it from behind. You can see it right here. And we're going to run it right here. When Jared Goff brings in his guys, as you can see right here, Jared Goff takes his right hand off and touches his right cheek on his hand. See it? It's subtle. I spotted it, but you know who else spotted it? Raekwon Davis, as he's telling the defense, it's outside zone. Get out here. And of course, the result of the play is no gain. And it's all from good recognition from your zero. This play was completely made by your zero tech, your nose tackle, Raekwon Davis, and the three tech on this side, Zach Sealer. Now, this is something the Dolphins do very often, and I drew these up for you all season last year. And as you can see, the Rams have their 5 linemen in to block. And the Dolphins are showing kind of like a zero blitz here, right? Because they'll have 5 in coverage. They have 6 on the line ready to rush. So there's 5 pass receivers and they have 5 in coverage. It's a zero blitz, right? Not necessarily. What sometimes they like to do is they like to threaten both gaps inside of the center. So you're talking about the 1A and the 1B. They're both being threatened. And the A gap is being threatened by both defensive tackles. They're going to have a guy threatening 3 technique. And they're going to have a guy threatening 5. Or, in this case, 7 tech. So, when you have this kind of alignment, what do you got to do, right? If you're the quarterback, if you're the offensive line, like, what are you doing, right? You don't have enough guys to block all these guys, so there's going to be a free rusher. Well, the smart thing is always to slide protection, right? Because if you slide protection, you can go one way, but you have to allow a free rusher. One of the free rushers must be the farthest from the ball. So it has to be one of these ends. This is something Jaelen Phillips is going to have plenty to do. He's going to have to get to the quarterback quick because sometimes, like it happens in this case, the Rams called a route combination that's to this side of the defense. So they slide protection and they allow a free rusher. And did the Dolphins send all six? Of course not. They always pull one or maybe sometimes even two, but they induced a free rusher, and the free rusher got there. Jaelen Phillips has to be smart enough to recognize these situations and when it calls for, and to not stutter step off of the line to set up his pass rush. He just has to go, kind of like Emmanuel Ogbah does in this case. As you can see, they slide protect. And Emmanuel Ogbah is in a dead sprint. He is in a dead sprint for the quarterback as they slid protect. And as you can see, Kyle Van Noy pressed the hole correctly, like he should have, but is now coming back and he's shadowing Jared Goff. So he's trying to get into the passing lane, possibly knock it down. But in the meantime, they induce the Rams' offensive line to slide to the left. They allow the free rusher on this side. Emmanuel Ogbah recognized it immediately and got into a dead sprint. What's the result? We know what happens next. Fumble. And now it's about picking it up and scoring with it. And as we know, Andrew Van Ginkel does, in fact, score with it. So it's very important. When Dolphins are in the zero blitz fronts, when they're in these zero blitz looks, if you are the defensive end, and if you're one of the defensive ends, and you recognize where there's going to be a slide protect, or it's called by the quarterback or called by the center, you have to recognize it immediately, and you have to know when you just have to go on a dead sprint because you're going to be the free rusher. That's something that Jaelen Phillips will have to learn. He'll learn it very, very quickly in camp, and I suspect he'll implement it well in the regular season. Guys most responsible for this will be Emmanuel Ogbah, Jaelen Phillips, Andrew Van Ginkel. Those are the guys that they've acquired to essentially fill these roles as the 7-tech rusher on third down on the zero blitz fronts. All right, Dolphins are in nickel here, and the Bills are in 11 personnel. And the Dolphins bring a 5-man pressure here, which essentially what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to induce blockers to come a little bit down as Van Ginkel tries to shoot this gap right here. And by doing that, they bring Nick Needham off the edge, who gets the pressure on Josh Allen, which Van Ginkel cleans up. Now, in this case, as far as, since Josh Allen is under center, you would think, okay, maybe they run the ball here, and, how are you going to defend it? Well, since you have like an overfront, this is the closed end, and this is the open end. So this is open, and this is closed. Very simple. Closed end, if you have a 3-tech, and you have your 0 either shading on the 1 on either side of the A gap, then it's simple gap defense. You're responsible for each one, and you have enough players to cover them on either side. It's about reading the play, where it's going, reading your keys. If it's play action, you can step, and they do allow it in this type of defense for your linebackers to do something like this and then curl back into their zones. So if it's a run play, you kind of have it covered because you have a man in each gap. You have enough defenders for the blockers that they're going to employ. But this is very, very well scouted. And the Dolphins know that the Bills like to get under center to run some of their play actions. And in this case, the way they decide to combat this is by running a 5-man pressure. And that five-man pressure is made effective by the rush of Andrew Van Ginkel. Let's see it. Presses the outside, comes inside, sucks up Singletary, and now it's just an avalanche toward the quarterback, which Van Ginkel gets there. Let's watch it from behind. And as you can see, this is the closed end, which is wherever the tight end is. This is the open end. Okay? When it's a pass play, when it's play action, or it's a straight drop back pass, okay, you have combinations you can run with these three right here. The Bills are very much aware of it, so they're going to get. That's why you see that guys don't get hands on rushers immediately. They get into their slide kick, their kick slide, to try to get some space to allow the rushers to come across their face. Now, what Van Ginkel does is that he very slightly presses like he's going to come outside, comes inside, and that sucks up the running back into the B gap to try to pick up the rusher. And this type of step and this type of rush was designed to free up the five-man pressure and the free rusher. In this case, it was the nickelback, Nick Needham. If you play defensive end in this system, you're going to have to be able to do that. You're sometimes going to be asked to just rush wide. Sometimes you're asked to shade off of the shoulder. Sometimes you'll be asked to drop into the short zone, which is something that Jaelen Phillips can do. But more often than not, you will be asked to do things with your feet that allow your teammates to get to the quarterback. Let's watch it right here. Josh Allen did himself no favors by looking at the slot receiver, of course. There's a play action, and you saw the little step that Van Ginkel gave. Sucked up Singletary, allowed the free rusher, and Van Ginkel gets to the quarterback.